Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Planning Board for Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. Could we please call the roll?
Scott Klein.
Present.
Robin Boyle.
Here.
Stuart Jeffries.
Here.
Eric Holzbeck.
Here.
Daniel Schaefer.
Here.
Noah Bobois.
Here.
Brian Williams.
Present.
Duncan Curry. Nassim Rahman. Carter Anderson. Olivia Betanzos.
Excellent. We are Court, and welcome back to our students. Let's move along to review and approval of the minutes of the.
Get him up front. Bring him up.
You guys want to take it?
There's a door here.
All right. Let's move along to the review and approval of the minutes of our last two meetings. We had a regular meeting on the 23rd and a special meeting on the 30th. Let's start with the 23rd. Any comments on the minutes?
Yeah, the comment.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, Nassim Rahman is both present and absent.
She's good.
Yeah, it's.
She's like.
So I don't
Just
know,
like an
I wasn't
attorney.
here, so I don't know what happened, but I know she wasn't both.
Make your mind
Was
up.
she present?
She was here.
I believe she was here.
She was here. She
Well,
was
then we
here.
should take her off the absent list.
Yes. All right, any other comments? Yep, Mr. Scher.
On page 5, the first bullet, it's actually Forest Hills Swim Club, not Forest Hills Country Club.
There is a difference.
Yes, Forest Hill Swim Club, correct.
At least,
And that should be taken through to anywhere that it's abbreviated as well.
yeah.
All right, any other comments on the minutes?
Nope.
Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion. Please?
We're on strike.
Okay, I'm here. I move approval of the minutes from April 23rd.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Boyce, support by Mr. Boyle. Any conversation at the board level? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion unanimous. Let's move along to the special meeting on the 30th. Any comments related to those minutes?
Yep.
Mr. Scher, was that you?
On page 2 of the minutes, the second bullet, there's a space, an extra space in the word presentation. Now, here it is. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7th line down to the second bullet on the left.
I don't see it.
that.
I don't see what you, I might be on the wrong page, Mr.
Page 2?
Page 2 of the minutes,
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Which bullet?
second
Second.
full bullet.
Uh-huh. Second full bullet.
7 lines.
okay.
It says presentation is, the line starts. It's an extra space.
Earned your pay tonight, Mr. Scher.
Oh, I got it.
Any other comments on the minutes? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Move the approval of the minutes of April 30th, 2025 is corrected.
Second those. Motion, Mr. Scher, seconded, Mr. Kozik. Any conversation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
Motion unanimous. All right, thank you. Welcome to everybody watching tonight. There will be an opportunity tonight for public input on several of the topics that we're discussing. The first will be a site plan, and then we have a couple of study session items. Study session items don't necessarily result in any sort of decision by this board. If anything, we may move for a public hearing. But again, there will be an opportunity for you to comment. If you're here, you can come forward to either microphones, and if you are at home watching on Zoom, you can use the raise your hand function in the center middle console. More on that when we get to it. With that, Ms. Polinsky, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Not that I.
Fantastic, let's roll. Site plan and design review for 168 West Maple. Tuta, if I'm saying that correctly?
Tuda, I
Tuda?
believe is how it's pronounced.
Final site plan and design review for a new outdoor dining facility. Take it away.
Okay, so. There we go.
insist on that. We have.
So what we're looking at here is 168 West Maple, Tuda, for a final site plan and design review for an outdoor dining platform in the public right-of-way. This is a new restaurant, not a bistro, not a special land use permit, so therefore I believe this might be the first you're seeing of the restaurant is this request for the outdoor dining. The site is located on the north side of West Maple between Pierce and Henrietta. It's very close to Henrietta. I believe it was retail prior. And so they're applying for this outdoor dining platform, which they're proposing to just put 4 tables with 8 total chairs on. So it's quite a modest use of a platform. Some things to note about the location. It's just, there's one other approved outdoor dining platform on the same block. It's on the north side of West Maple. It's 2 storefronts east of here, at Dick O'Dow's. And then in addition to that, there's a second outdoor dining platform that's currently in the application process. I believe you may hear about that at the next meeting, for Cafe Origins, and it's across the street from Dick O'Dow's on the south side of West Maple, and there's no other changes proposed to this building or site. That's just to give you a feel for like the outdoor dining on this specific block. So as I said, they're based on this proposal, there's nothing else to be included on the platform right now, other than the tables and chairs. Of course, we have let the applicant know that a waste receptacle is required, and so we've requested plans showing where the waste receptacle would be located. We don't have those yet. Something else to note is that, so the outdoor dining platform will occupy 1 on-street parking space. They're proposing Trex deck as the material for the platform deck, and to construct the platform flush with the curb as is required by the ordinance. But we just made a note here in your packet into the applicant that to properly assess the design of the deck, the applicant must submit specification sheets or material samples for the proposed materials. In addition, the applicant must submit details on all proposed outdoor dining elements included but not limited to overhead weather protection, heating, elements, and trash receptacles. The applicant must also submit a scaled side view of the plans showing the dimensions of the height of the deck railings. So we do not have that yet. As is required for all outdoor dining facilities, the applicant will be required to obtain an outdoor dining permit annually. They'll be required to enter into a license agreement with the city as well. They're expected to pay fees to cover the loss in revenue of 2 on-street parking spaces, as well as a general lease amount for the total square footage of public property that is being utilized. So particular to this location and this request for this parking space, this is proposed in a space that is currently marked ADA. So what they're proposing is to displace a current ADA on-street parking space. Now, we would not approve the loss of an ADA space. So what they would be required to do is to reimburse the city's costs for moving the ADA space by 1 space to the east to this adjacent space. So this here is like the marked curb cut pathway. So it's equally located in distance from these 2 spots. So they're proposing to move to this one. They would have to cover those costs for the city to do that if that space is eligible. So that would include moving the signage and moving the parking meter. And that's a if eligible. Of course, that the grades of that particular space would still have to meet ADA. And we do not yet know if that is the case there. So that's kind of my last comment there. So we don't typically go to department comments on the platforms. We did just consult with engineering briefly on this because of the ADA, and so I put the note in your packet that the engineering department will require the applicant to provide detailed plans for stormwater runoff, as well as we'll need to confirm the eligibility of the adjacent parking space to be converted for ADA use. And so based on a review of the site plan submitted and the approval criteria of Article 7, Section 7.27 of the zoning ordinance, the planning department recommends that the planning board approve the final site plan design review application for 168 West Maple, Tuda, subject to the following conditions. The applicant must submit details on the proposed materials. The applicant must submit details on all proposed outdoor dining elements. The applicant must reimburse the city for all costs associated with moving the ADA space to the adjacent parking space if eligible, and the applicant must comply with the requests of all city departments.
All right, questions? Mr. Jeffries?
So I'm just looking at this because I don't have it committed to memory, but two things. It looks like if that spot gets taken, the next spot would be open. The next spot is Dicko Dow's.
So that's a
So
really
you'd
good
be
question.
parking between two parking decks, which
Easy, not easy.
sets me into panic.
That's a really good point and a really good question. I don't have the information at this moment to confirm that your assessment's correct, but it very well could be. You're gonna look at it. I'm not exactly sure.
The first thing when I looked at this, because, you know, the street's beautiful, we did a lot to it, the lanes are really narrow. And that sidewalk looks like if you wanted to put a couple tables out there, you could probably do it.
On the furnishing.
Not screw up the thing. But I don't know, it just came to me. I mean, it's 14 feet or something?
What is?
14 feet from, what is it from, it's kind of blurry on my screen here. From
Oh,
the,
yeah, so it's 14 from
Three.
building face to the curb, 14 feet 3 inches.
yeah, so, and we need 5.
It's one spot.
I can't really tell.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Just to confirm your concerns, Mr. Jeffries, looking at Google Maps from 2025 satellite imagery, you are correct that that would be the only space between the Dicko Dows and the new platform proposed.
So one space or two?
One space.
So the ADA space.
Correct, the new ADA space. I don't have access from this computer, but I can pull it up on there if you'd like.
Oh,
The chairman has it on his.
by the way, we had that situation with Plantrophy and Toast, and I was there the day when someone smashed into the Toast. You know,
This image makes it look,
All right, while we bring that up, any other questions? I know I have a few, but we'll just go around. Mr. Williams?
Why is the applicant not here?
That's a great question. I know that
I mean, we always insist on looking at materials at a final site plan. Period. They're not here. We have no final materials. Secondly, I don't ever recall approving anything where we didn't know overhead weather protection, heating elements, et cetera. We always insist on knowing what the overhead protection, are they umbrellas? Are they not? What do the umbrellas look like? I mean, if this was a bistro, we'd run them up one side and down the other. They're not a bistro, but it's the same thing, outdoor dining. So there's no way they're getting my vote tonight. I'm just saying that, period. And I'm done.
Mr. Chair?
So a couple of questions. Are you saying, Leah, that if the next space over is not eligible for a ADA space, that this wouldn't be approved at all? Is that your recommendation?
correct. If the adjacent space is not eligible to be signed and considered an ADA space, city staff would not recommend approving
Correct.
the deck with a loss of an ADA parking space.
Okay, so that, just my observation is if we go that route, that would need to be in the motion, I think. Secondly, that street is so narrow and it has so much traffic that in addition to Mr. Jeffrey's concern, I wonder if any of the departments or the traffic consultants given any thought to how many decks is too many on a street with that kind of traffic, with that kind of width to it? Now, maybe maybe they would say a deck is better than parking space for traffic flow. I don't know. But I just worry. I anecdotally have heard people complaining about either almost getting hit when they've gotten out of their car or having doors damaged when they're open by big trucks coming through. So did you get any feedback from, anybody about how the traffic flow in that area might be either positively or negatively impacted by a deck?
Yeah, I did reach out to the city's traffic consultant to ask basically that question. She said that outdoor dining has no impact on traffic flow because it takes place in the parking, so she said there would be no impact. Additionally, we did talk to Police Chief Gruey. We just asked him, had a conversation kind of about whether there's been any issues as far as crashes related to or involving dining platforms. He said, other than the toast situation somebody alluded to earlier tonight, that is the only ever crash involving a dining platform in the city, and that was on a different street. He did search, he did just like a little cursory search of this area to see what kinds of crashes happen here. He only found, like what kinds of crashes happen on these narrow streets, and he basically only found that the crashes were related to doors opening. So it was they're related to the parking. There was nothing related to the deck.
And one more question. Are you thinking that if this is approved, this would be the permanent ADA space for forever, or would it move back for the winter?
So I do not expect that the city is interested in seasonally moving ADA signage and meters. I think that would be a one-time movement.
Okay, thank you.
To be fair, I mean, just taking a look at that photo right there, you're not just talking about signs and meters, you're talking about a curb ramp, an actual curb drop that would need to be constructed on the other side of that planter, and probably the curb drop that exists being replaced with typical curb,
Yeah.
to then put an ADA spot in the middle of, checkered in with unfettered parking. To me, it just doesn't seem like a very good idea at all.
I think the question we were posing to engineering, which we didn't get the response yet on, was whether this curb cut can serve.
It cannot,
Okay.
not for parallel parking in an ADA space.
It has to be behind,
You're talking about someone that, in this case, is either going to be getting out the side
right?
of a van into a planter, or out the rear of a van on a lift, and where are they going to go? They're going to go out in the middle of the street to get to that curb ramp? I think frankly, it's just that can't move.
Okay.
I share Mr. Williams' concern about just the plans being incomplete, and I understand that we ask a lot at times, and I've tried to reconcile with myself how we can not burden small businesses with overly onerous requirements, yet at the same time, they don't seem to even try. I mean, materials are drawing something to help me see what the elevation is. I mean, be present. Talk to us about this. Talk to the engineering department about this. I just, again, continue to see over the course of the last 6 months, just a whole lot of plans that are not complete, and it's starting to bug me a lot. Mr. Chair, just one quick thing. To your comment about the number of decks, I share your concern at a high level, at a 10,000-foot level. I actually think that's a perfect question to pose to the City Commission at our joint meeting, because it's a policy question.
Yeah.
Do they want us to look at that? If they say, no, everyone loves dining, then let's drop it. We'll worry about it. But I think it's perfect for them. What I don't want to do is accidentally have one applicant have it taken out on them and then put the city in a position where we're facing potential
Yeah.
litigation over it when the ordinance says they're allowed to apply, right? But I think that'd be a great thing, Ms. Blinsky, to put on talk to Mr. Dupuy about for putting on the joint meeting.
Sure.
Mr. Jeffries.
So I don't know if we're moving in this direction on these decks or not, but if we went back, when we first started doing this, this was places that didn't have another way to offer outdoor dining. They wanted to visualize and do it. And this place has got 14 feet of sidewalk and just a few tables. I personally would like to see these guys try it on the sidewalk, come back and say, hey, it didn't work, we had these problems, instead of going right to this, because this is problematic, and we can all tell that.
That's a great question. Do you know what the actual, we updated our ordinance, and so I want to ask, they don't have to put it in the parking. We told them that if they put it in the parking, they cannot extend that deck into the furniture zone.
I believe that's correct.
But I don't believe we told them that if they didn't have outdoor dining in a parking space, that they couldn't put 2 tables out in the furniture zone, did we?
I believe you're correct.
So I don't get it.
Well, I think our position was we couldn't put tables in the furnishing zone and next to the building, and then we would wind up with Lux. And Lux has taken away the tables in the furnishing zone now, but the time we approved it, we had this narrow passage in between, and that was what we were objecting to.
Correct.
Not that the tables were in the furnishing zone, that they were both next to the building and in the furnishing zone.
Ms. Boyce.
Just a couple more general things. I think if we talk to City Commission at our joint meeting and ask them if we should look at this further and they choose not to, I think maybe we still should do a little digging into if it's even safe to have less than X number of parking spots between decks or something for some sort of guidance, because one spot between decks in a street, on any street, doesn't seem like a very safe idea. So maybe someone has some knowledge that they can say, yeah, 2 is a minimum, or 3 is a recommended minimum amount of spaces between decks. Whatever that might be, but I'd like to know that. But then the other thing, just again, another sort of general point, do you think that some of the applicants, I've worked with some people in the past that are new, they're little restaurants like this, and they just really don't know how things work here, and they are confused about how they go about getting all this done, and they ask lots of questions because they really don't understand. Do you think maybe that they're missing, they're not showing up, and they used to show up? Do you think they're missing that they're supposed to be here somehow? Do they not? Because I don't think that I trust that they have good intentions and they'd like this to happen, and so I feel like they might be just kind of missing some information somewhere.
It'd be rare that we approve something with nobody here.
Yeah, and we've had this happen a couple times lately. We had it, and so I don't know if they're just not getting the memo, or I don't know. Maybe we need to give them some more information when they come, or because it's happened. This is the 3rd time, right? We had Cafe Origins, and then, of course, Lux, which they should know better for sure because they're old pros at this, but these 2 new ones are just surprising.
Yeah, that's a good question. I know that, outdoor dining is something that Nick has really worked on a lot, so he has a lot of these conversations with the applicants, and you're right, a lot of them they're smaller businesses, they're one-offs, so they maybe haven't done this before. I trust that Nick is informing them and having those sensitive conversations. I know that, when the process is talked about up front on the front end, they're certainly let know about the meeting and they'll be expected to be there. Whether or not we're contacting them the week of, the day of, to kind of handle them into getting here, I'm not sure. I actually did speak with Nick earlier today, and he expressed to me was intending to call them today to make sure that they would be here. So I'm not sure what the disconnect is. I know that
They're open for
staff never wants to be up here without an applicant.
Right.
It's always better. if
Understand.
We
Sure.
do everything we can.
Of course.
All right, I get the tenor where we're going. Any final comments or?
I just will
Mr.
confirm, I checked the zoning ordinance, I can confirm that the furnishing zone limitation is tied to the platform. If there's no platform, there's no prohibition.
Right. So they could put these right in the furniture zone and
Yeah,
Yeah.
be done.
yeah.
Mr. Boyle?
Yeah, just two small points. If they are resubmitting plans, I'd like to see the pedestrian walk notified on the plan, which is directly beneath the symbol for the traffic lights, because I think that's an important part of the townscape and road. It's not marked on any of the drawings
Here?
at all. Yes, correct. And secondly, and this is slightly broader, I think we need to be clear here what we're saying, because if they are new and they don't understand what's going on, we use these terms furnishing zone, without any definition. So I think we need to be clear what we're going to be asking them to do next.
Close to the curb.
So can I make one other observation, which is that in this circumstance, putting a table and chair in the furnishing zone in front of the ADA access would be a problem.
Correct.
Correct. That's
Correct.
exactly what I was suggesting, which still leaves them space for, 3 tables and 6 chairs.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what I think I'm hearing is that there are very strong practical difficulties in taking this space away
Yes,
and using it for dining.
yes.
And if they want to pay for that, they're talking tens of thousands of dollars, and it might not even still work.
Right.
So I think that's what we're saying, number one. We're not about to design this for them. I think we're open to the idea of a few tables and chairs as long as it's done properly.
Yeah.
And that they need all the P's and Q's in line.
So they need to come back to the city with their ideas and listen to what's being
Yes. Mr. Williams.
We have approved outdoor dining with tables close to the building.
Yeah.
So they don't have to, they don't have to go to the furnishing zone. They can theoretically put them next to the building as long as there is a safe passenger passageway. And that's just something we'd have to look at the plans and see.
Yes.
And we can't tell right now.
And in order to assess that, we're going to need to see where Dick O'Dowd's stuff is in relation to that.
Yeah.
Because we don't want pedestrians to have to zigzag
Right,
through this strip.
Right.
So,
Dead right.
right.
so hearing all that, let me open it to the public. Is there anyone from the public who would care to comment? If you are at home on Zoom, use the raise your hand function. If you're present and wish to provide comment, you can come forward. I see no one rising. I see no hands going up. All right, we'll bring it back to the board. I would entertain a motion, board. I think we're all on board with a postponement. I don't know if we want a date certain next month.
What's the date of the meeting with the city commission?
16?
Well, I don't want to tie this particular one to that. It's not fair to them. I mean, dining season is hitting, and I don't
Yeah,
want
they got to be, aren't
a
they?
business to be adversely affected because we're a little worried about whether there's too many decks on this street. The ordinance allows it, so they just didn't put forth a plan
Okay.
that meets it. I think that'd be unfair.
All right.
I don't know that they've got time in the next 2 weeks, however, to do what they need to do, per se. Mr. Kozik?
I mean, we're planners here. It's the city commission's not planners. Like, what are you expecting them to give a direction to?
Policy direction on whether or not they want the city to regulate the number of decks used for outdoor dining. Because the moment we say, yeah, that we're going to regulate it, every single restaurant in this town is going to be in this room screaming at us why we're even talking about it.
Well,
So
I
it's a
think
policy
tonight it was
decision.
good because we talked about there's only one space. That's probably not good.
Right.
That's a planning thing.
Absolutely.
The ADA compliant parking space and things like that. I don't have the confidence that with everything else that's going on in this town that, we're going to get some direction to study that, so.
All right?
Up to them.
They can say no.
Make the motion.
It's just a
Ms. Boyce,
question.
yes?
Should we not, I mean, I think we've talked through this, that their only option is a couple tables on the sidewalk close to their building. So do we not just deny this proposal and not make a date for them to come back? Because if they were putting a couple tables in there,
And they
it's
would
going
not
to
be
be an
allowed to
illustration.
reapply for outdoor dining for a period of,
Oh, is that true?
Here,
Yeah.
I believe.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
So,
Okay.
can we postpone it for a month and just have a joint meeting,
I mean,
the first meeting in June?
well, again, I don't want to tie this to the joint meeting. I'm going to be kind of angry if we
No,
come
no,
back
our
to that
joint
stage.
meeting
Yeah.
that we would consider both site plans and study.
Oh, you mean a hybrid meeting? I'm
Yeah,
sorry. You
hybrid
said
meeting.
joint meeting, buddy. I'm sorry.
All right, joint session.
I'm fine with that if the rest of the board's.
What's the
fine.
date of the first meeting in June?
First meeting in June I have is June 11th.
So I'll move to postpone consideration of 168 West Maple, TUDA, final site plan and design review to the first meeting in June,
June
which is
11.
June 11, 2025.
Definitely support.
Motion, Mr. Williams, support, Mr. Boyle. Conversation on the motion? Mr. Williams?
I hate to be picky about this, but don't we need to have a motion first to, I'm correcting myself here, to have consideration of site plans and study session at the meeting?
I think,
We'll do
given,
it after.
I think we're, given the fact that it's our own rules, I think we can
Okay.
change the rule after
right.
we break it.
Let's vote.
To the public, is there anyone from the public who would care to comment on the motion? Again, if you're at home, use the raise your hand function in Zoom. Bring it back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion unanimous. Now, Mr. Williams.
So I'll make a motion that the first meeting in June be a meeting where we consider both site plan approvals and also study session.
Motion,
The
Mr.
same
Williams.
meeting.
Yes. Motion, Mr. Williams.
Support.
Support, Ms. Whipple-Boyce. Any conversation at the board? To the public? Back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion unanimous. Thank you.
I would simply,
Joint meeting.
I would simply say, I think your conversation with them should, A, please have them come, and B, we're not opposed to the idea, we just need more details. So they're up and running, the restaurant is up and running, and.
For good things.
Yeah, so I want to be positive in our approach to them.
Yes.
Would it make sense going forward, when somebody comes for a deck, they have to show any other decks within so many feet?
I
mean,
kind
that
of
was-
think that's inherently part of the site plan requirements, but again,
They showed an empty
how mu-
spot.
here's where I think the problem is that we ask for things that we all want as planners and that we feel we need. And then we're expressing it to somebody that owns their own business, that is probably not making a lot on take-home in the first year, and it's going to cost them an extra $3,000. And so we're balancing, I think,
Oh, no, I know.
You know,
No, just show it on your drawing, you already paid for it.
I agree.
Okay.
All right, let's move forward. Study session, impervious surface,
Yep.
favorite topic.
So, impervious surfaces. I believe this is maybe study session number 3 on this topic. I know it's, as you know, this is Nick's item. You've been going over it extensively.
Commissioner Emmerine's item.
What?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, you guys have been studying this extensively over several study sessions. We believe after the last study session, we were approaching consensus and very close to the point of setting a public hearing. I think the chair was not there, and so we just decided, what's the harm in taking one more study session to just really make sure that this is what we want to set for public hearing. So I guess I call it Nick's item because he wrote this memo. He expressed to me that he basically didn't change it. Very, very minor, maybe tweaks. And just to let you all know that he will review the tape from tonight's meeting. He will be listening closely and taking notes. So should you choose to express any additional comments and requests, just be really clear about the specific asks, and he'll be sure to take that into account. And I believe he was looking for a public hearing tonight to be set for June 11th. I want to say.
comments from the rest of the board? Mr. Chair?
So as a matter of drafting, I think that, I've got to get these sections right. 4.31, which I'll call the 65% standard that relates to open space, and 4.30, which is the overall 75%, they ought to read the same, and they don't. And by that, I mean, after you get to the 75, in 4.30, after it says minimum 75%, there's a sentence. It says permeable pavers or other semi-hardscape materials are not considered vegetated open space. That sentence is not in the companion 4.31.
Correct.
And I think it ought to be, because I think without that
We're making it stick.
correspondence, it leaves open the possibility that something different is meant. Now, if folks think something different meant, that's great. I don't happen to think it is, but I fear that somebody would try and argue that let me get back to it, a semi-hardscape material, which is expressly prohibited in the one, might be permitted in the other.
Right.
So I would say that 4.31 ought to have a period after vegetated open space and add that sentence about at the end of 4.30 has to do with permeable pavers, et cetera.
Yep. I think you make an excellent point.
Good.
I think you make an excellent point. Those should read the same, too,
Yeah.
just kind of the same verbiage.
Right.
And the same kind of general cadence.
All right, so
as
we'd
well.
add the sentence from 4.30
And then just look at how it's written and make sure that it's
to
clear.
4.31.
Right, and put the period in 4.31 after vegetated open space.
Yeah, and so,
Okay.
we'd make that change as part of the notice for the public hearing.
Yeah, we would, if we're so inclined, we could make a motion to set a public hearing for this language with that change.
Yes, of course. I think that makes perfect sense. So we'll go over here quickly, Mr. Jeffers.
The definition of impervious surface includes artificial turf. Artificial turf is permeable by design. That's why you walk into U of M Stadium and it's not a pool. Now, if you put it on concrete, the concrete isn't permeable, but the artificial turf is definitely permeable.
I do remember hearing that. I also remember hearing that there were some people in city staff recommending against artificial turf, and I don't know if this board wants to
well,
jump into that conversation.
I think
we
there
left
is-
it in there on purpose.
There's
From my memory.
if you may not want it in the city,
Right.
but you can't put it here because it is by design permeable. I mean, if you don't want it, then we should have something that you can't have. You can't have that in, it's not allowed as a building material or landscape material or whatever, but
I
it
think
doesn't
we
belong
already
here.
do.
Huh?
I
If
think
I
we
may.
already do, don't we?
I think we banned it in front yard
Front yards.
Yeah.
already,
But we
artificial
don't
turf.
ban it anywhere else.
But I don't think it's permeable. I don't think all artificial turfs are permeable. I think some are, some aren't. I mean, that's the way it used to be. I don't know in the
I
last
mean-
couple of years if there are changes.
That was the silver.
Well, let's put a pin in that for a second, and then tie into a comment in a little bit. Let's go over here,
I just
Mr.
have a general question. So, Mr. Emmerich's not here anymore. I don't speak this language, so, so back up for a moment. Does this meet, I sort of recall how the concern came about. Does this solve this after 3 meetings in your mind?
So maybe I'll dive in because I didn't get a chance to speak next time or last time. I think we need to start over. No, I'm kidding. 100%. I think we've made a lot of improvement here. I looked at this and probably spent 45 minutes, much to the amusement of my wife and daughter, thinking about impervious surface and going back and forth on how we might do this. I don't necessarily like percentages of percentages and all of these things. At the end of the day, I think I was overthinking it because this does, in my opinion, solve the issue that we set out to solve and provides an opportunity for single-family residential construction to design toward low impact. And then, in fact, in a way, kind of incentivizes you to lessen the amount of pavement and use more aggregate and other materials. Because if we look at the definition on 4.30, I believe, it says the required open space for all single-family development must consist of a minimum of 75% vegetated open space. So what that means is that if you're required to have 40% of your lot be open space, well, 75% of that must be vegetated. So you got 10% to play with. Doesn't mean that if you provide more open space, 75% of all of your open space has to be vegetated. So it gives you a lot of opportunity as a designer to do some things. And if you reduce pavements and increase open space, you can do more with aggregates and other materials, perhaps eliminating a concrete patio and putting something like they have at Griffin Club, the outdoor beer garden with the aggregate space. So at the end of the day, I think Mr. Scher's comment about the language is absolutely appropriate. I think this accomplishes our goals. I think we could probably talk about this for 12 more months and not go very much further because of all of the little idiosyncrasies involved, but I think this does the job. And I'd also just say, Mr. Jeffries, in my opinion, I think I'd like to move this forward as is right now and not tackle the artificial turf. We're hopefully, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to be doing the ordinance overhaul. We're going to tear into the open space, artificial turf, and all of that as we get into it. Let's do it then when we've got a consultant who can bring in some data and some facts and help us figure it all out. So personally, I would suggest that we move forward as amended by Mr. Scher and push forward to a public hearing. But that's my suggestion.
Are we rostering these? Because we've come up with several of these that we've kind of said, hey, let's tackle this later. Do we, Summer, do you know? Do you know?
You say that one more time.
Huh?
You asked a question.
Yeah, we talked about, well, we are in favor, I think, of sending this forward.
Yeah.
With a possible thing that we want to look when we do the full rewrite.
Yeah.
At the artificial turf. And then I know there's been a couple other ones that we said, you know, it's 98% there, let's go forward, we'll fix it later.
Yeah.
Are we rostering these?
They are definitely being recorded in all of the minutes, but we can compile something
Yeah,
where we
it's
have
probably a good
running
idea,
list.
because
That would be a good idea.
Absolutely.
Save us some time.
The other
I
one that
agree.
you may have brought up is that,
Can I just pause you guys real quick?
Yes.
Laura, I think there's someone in the waiting room. Are you able to let them in?
Been waiting.
I have let them in.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
They've been waiting for a
Thank you.
while.
Okay,
Continue.
thank you. Mr. Kozik?
just, there are other places like Scottsdale, Arizona or something that are dealing, so there's other things that kind of come into play here that probably I've not researched, and consultant could probably enlighten us.
Mr. Boyle?
88 data centers around the world answered my question. And they gave me 6 pages, plus the conclusion, and I'll read just their main conclusion. So, putting this all together, artificial turf isn't always impervious. Its permeability depends on factors like the backing material, infill type, blade density, and the underlying base layers. Deep sick, all the way from China. So I think your point is valid.
Yeah.
Past this, but we should mark it, note it, that we will come back to discuss this because it is going to come up. You're right.
Artificial turf definitely was not.
All right. With that, I'd like to open it up to the public. If there's anyone from the public who would like to comment on the impervious surface discussion that we're having, if you're here, come forward to the microphone. If you are home on Zoom, you could use the raise your hand function at the center middle of the console. I see no one standing up. I see no hands going up. So we'll bring it back to the board.
Can I ask a question before you make a motion?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't get my hand up fast enough. You guys answered most of my questions in this conversation, but I looked back at the minutes, and there were a couple from the last time we discussed this, and there were a couple points about consulting with the building department about some of the things in here, because maybe there was some stuff that might be worded so that it would be more difficult for the building department to interpret, and I wondered if that happened, and I noted a couple of things that were just not very specific in the language, like calling out similar material in some places rather than being specific, or Another word, other semi-hardscape materials without specifying what that means exactly. Highly compacted soils, like just a couple things that how will they be able to identify what those materials are if we're not calling them out, or if we're not more specific, or will someone's interpretation cause confusion and, trouble as far as when someone making the application thinking something fits the bill and somebody that day is interpreting it differently, so that was a question we had last time. I thought we were gonna get some clarity between last meeting and this one on it, but I'm not sure that we did, but could we for
Did the
going
building
forward?
department take a look at the language?
Yeah, so I guess the only insight I can add to that is in my conversation with Nick today, he did express that he had talked to building and engineering and they felt they had a solution between the group, as far as when it comes to the application, of how that would be applied evenly across the board. Everybody was on the same page, so, he expressed confidence that they were aligned in their interpretation. I'm not sure if that's specific enough. The part about the materials, I would just say, with the hundreds of building materials out there, it would be, I think, impossible in an ordinance to list out every possible material. So while saying something like similar materials or hardscape materials sounds vague, or sounds like it could be interpreted vaguely, I feel like this is a case where that vagueness is almost necessary, because there's gonna be a product made from a slightly different type of material
2 years from now.
with a different brand name, and if we list 25 things and we don't list that, all I can say is the building staff, the engineering staff, and the planning staff is aligned on what they mean and how they interpret.
And that's what I wanted to hear, so thank you.
Yeah.
And any good engineer or contractor knows what highly compacted means.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a vagueness, but
Yeah.
it's understood.
Okay, thanks for answering that.
Wonderful. So with that, I would entertain a motion if they were so inclined, Board. Mr. Scheer.
I move that the planning board set a public hearing date of June 11, 2025 to review the proposed ordinance amendments to Article 4, Section 30, open space standards to add additional open space standards for single-family residential zone properties. Article 4, Section 4.31, open space standards to modify the paved surface limitations in the R1, R1A, R2, and R3 zoning districts. Article 9, Section 902, definitions to modify the definition of impervious surface, and that for purposes of the notice, Section 4.31A1 read, a minimum of 65% of the front open space in all single-family districts shall be vegetated open space, period. Permeable pavers or other semi-hardscape materials are not considered vegetated open space.
Support.
Motion, Mr. Scheer, support, Mr. Williams. Conversation at the Board on the motion? To the public one last time, any comment on the motion to set a public hearing for impervious surfaces? If you are at home, use the raise your hand function. See no hands going up. Bring it back to the Board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion unanimous. Thank you very much. Let's move along to childcare ordinance. Good evening, Ms. Alden Ahrens. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Wonderful. Please take it away.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to be back with you all for this third time we're bringing childcare forward. Just to give a brief recap on what's been going on. So originally we started off this because we received a evaluation from McKenna, the consulting firm, regarding our childcare readiness ordinance and just preparedness in general for childcare in the city of Birmingham. And they had some recommendations regarding how we could go about making our city more childcare friendly. And we've gone through several iterations and conversations, but based on our conversation last time, it seems that we've moved in the direction of making sure that we are very clear with what our standards are in terms of tying them back to the state. And one of the other things that I wanted to start us off with that being said, is I've made a little map up here of all of the existing childcare centers, homes, family homes, and group homes in the city of Birmingham. We currently have 17 licensed childcare centers, family homes, and/or group homes. We have 15 childcare centers and 2 family homes. We have 0 group homes currently at the moment in the city of Birmingham. All of this information can be found here on the statewide facility search. This is your child care hub. This is run by the state, showing all of the licensed child care facilities within the state of Michigan, which is great. So you can look up how many are in your town and in your county in general. You can look and find all of them.
That's great.
So very useful tool there. I'm going to come to this slide really quickly with that. Hold on. Oh, I haven't done Google Slides in a minute. View, there we go. Slideshow. I'm going to edit my statements. 17 child care centers and 2 family homes, so 19 total, 0 group day homes. And I did a little bit of research and according to our neighbors to see what else was out there, because I felt like the more information I could give the board, the better. So currently, the city of Bloomfield Hills, not Bloomfield Township, has 31 child care centers. Many of these child care centers are in churches. So it's like child care in churches, but they're considered a child care center by the state. That is, it's not in a residence, it's in another building. They have 6 family child care homes, 4 group child care homes. City of Troy has 59 child care centers, largest city, 16 family daycare homes, and 4 group child care homes. City of Royal Oak has 25 child care centers, 11 family daycare homes, and 1 group daycare home. So you can see the language is flipping back and forth, but essentially that's what they mean. Is similar to what we're proposing here. One of the reasons I'm bringing this up is specifically regarding to the concern about just the number of homes, specifically group daycare homes is a higher quantity. There aren't that many that are in the Metro Detroit region. A lot of that has to do with the requirements by the state that we've looked at that are in our ordinance. That are in the state law, but beyond that as well. Many of these communities do have limitations on where group childcare homes can be, similarly to what the city of Birmingham has now. We only allow group childcare homes in 1 district. So all of that being said, the major changes that were made between the last meeting and tonight were the change of, if we look at Article 5.02, adding in the statement that family childcare homes must be licensed by the state and meet state requirements. That sentence was missing previously, but it does give some sort of standards and making sure that we're enforcing the state standards. Similarly, we include that in group childcare homes, making sure that group childcare homes are licensed by the state and meet state requirements. So in summary, we have not changed any of the overall, I know I have to scroll all the way down because it's very long, lots of things proposed to be changed. We have not edited the overall matrix from the last meeting. So this is something that will definitely be up for discussion tonight as we discuss the finalizing locations before the public hearing for family daycare or childcare homes and group childcare homes, and if we want to make any edits to this matrix before we move forward from there. But I'd like to open up to discussion regarding all the added information.
Okay.
A question?
Yeah, Mr. Scherer.
Summer, can you just walk us through, our ordinance has 3 different categories.
Correct.
Child care center.
Correct.
Family, or the proposed ordinance, family child care home and group child care home. And the matrix proposes different permitted and accessory use, whatever, and different things. Can you just, we're all on the same page, can you walk us through the difference between those 3 things?
Correct, absolutely. And I actually have the definition, and this is something that I thought that the board might want to consider for this evening as well. We have the definitions, one of the family childcare home, which is a private home for 1 to 7 minor children. So it's small, in a family home, under the care for less than 24 hours a day. A group childcare home is 8 to 14, so it's a more intensive residential use.
What's
Yes.
that? That's page 38 of your packet.
Thank you.
People are looking for it. Apologize.
Thank you. No, it's fine. 8 to 14 children within a residential home. And then
Follow what she's doing.
Yeah, but where's the childcare center?
I can go back.
Just go.
Childcare center, if you look at my screen,
Because that's not part of this ordinance.
correct, we have not proposed at the moment
Changes.
a change to the definition of childcare center. And that is something that we might want to investigate. It was not included originally because of our original report did not recommend a definition upgrade because they felt in their assessment that our definition was sufficient, but they are different. So I wanted to bring both to you because one is more, the state's is more prescriptive than our current childcare center definition. So just to read it for the record, a childcare center by the state of Michigan means a facility other than a private residence receiving 1 or more children under 13 years of age for care for periods of less than 24 hours a day where the parents or guardians are not immediately available to the child. Childcare center includes a facility that provides care for not less than 2 consecutive weeks, regardless of the number of hours of care per day. The facility is generally described as a childcare center, daycare center, day nursery, nursery school, parent cooperative preschool, playgroup, before or after school program, or drop-in center. So that's much more descriptive. Our current child care center definition is as follows: a facility other than a private residence where child care is provided for periods of fewer than 24 hours a day for more than 2 consecutive weeks per year for 1 or more children whose parents or guardians are not immediately available. Child care centers include public or private preschools, nursery schools, parent cooperative preschools, full-day child care centers, and drop-in centers, and must be licensed by the state.
So similar.
Very, very similar. So I wanted to bring up both of those definitions. So the center is, again, more children. And if we look back in your packet, I included the ratio of students to teacher as well as the maximum that are allowed in child care centers. And I can pull that up as well.
But you're not, this ordinance currently does not propose any changes to the definition.
Correct. That is very, that's
Or any
correct.
changes to the ordinance related to child care center.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Scheer, did you
No, that,
answer your question?
yeah, that answers my question, because it's, when we get to the matrix, keeping those things in mind
Yeah.
is
Great point.
significant.
Mr. Kozak.
Maybe you've addressed this, or maybe it's not in your scope, but are there more of these today than there were 10, 20, 30 years ago? I'm thinking more people working from home, but now they have to go back to work. It's kind of hard to work and watching a 4-month-old. My wife's watching a 4-month-old now, so I'm learning a little bit about this again. Do you expect that we'll see more of these than we currently have?
I think, so the intention behind this project to begin with is that we are looking to make sure that our city is prepared, because in general, at the state level, the state has mentioned, which is why this grant there's a grant to McKenna to reach out to municipalities and communities, because there seems to be a lack of childcare available to children. And parents in general have made it a point to express to the state that they wish that there was more childcare available. So the intention of this rewrite is to make sure that we are as prepared as possible to provide childcare options. So in essence, I don't have the data necessarily to see the change. I'm sure I could find some data allocated to that. But the whole motive behind this edit at all is specific to making sure we are as childcare friendly and prepared as possible.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Ms. Boyce.
Couple questions. First one, family child care home, group child care home. These by definition are in residential homes, period.
Correct.
Yes.
Never,
Correct.
okay. Just want to make that clear. And then this matrix that we have in front of us tonight, how does it differ from the matrix from before?
I can pull that up.
I don't think there were very many changes, right?
From the original matrix that's currently in our ordinance, it's
Permitted.
quite significant.
Is it
Oh,
permitted?
my bad, okay.
Accessory use.
For where, just for the matrix part?
Here, let me just pull up.
Thanks.
I apologize for not having that prepared.
Don't, that's okay.
This is why I retired. Going through this.
It's called a browser.
That's what associates are for.
Did you get your fingers? No.
It's sporadic.
She
They
looking
don't
for,
want to do it either.
I asked for the matrix of what's,
I'm looking at, oh
no,
yeah,
this
the
is
old one.
the new proposed. I just want to compare it to the old.
AI now? You're part of your practice?
No, in fact,
At one point, I had 3 screens up of different ones comparing back and forth. But I must have had this up twice because I thought they were similar. Sorry, I'm putting you through this.
No, I will find it for you. It's important.
Okay.
Well, while you're doing that, can we continue to move along with any other questions?
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll come
That's
back
my
to that
last
for sure.
question. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions while we're looking this up?
Just a question for staff. What other department in the city has responsibility for policing, approving, reviewing, looking at childcare facilities?
To my knowledge, planning is currently, we have a SLUP for childcare centers in most areas, or there are some areas that childcare centers require a SLUP. So we would look at that initially, and then beyond that, it's up, I believe it's like police for like any complaints, or like there's a like complaint that's filed, but I know the extent, I don't know the extent of other departments' involvement beyond that.
So who counts the number of kids?
The state, to my knowledge.
Really?
Yes. Most
So it's like-
family and group childcare homes and childcare centers undergo rigorous inspection processes in order to remain licensed.
Interesting. I mean, I'm sure our chairman, when he did his engineering degree, never covered this. I certainly never covered it in the planning curriculum, correct, Leah?
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
I think it's similar to how, we don't, like, when a restaurant comes into town, we don't have city staff that goes, well, we have the fire code and, right, the building code. We don't have city staff that goes in for your health, for your,
But the county has a
Kitchen.
very,
Exactly.
very, very specific.
right. And that's what Summer is
Maintenance.
saying, is like with the state, with childcare, they are very, because,
Proactive.
yeah, it's a big deal. So, yeah, the state is doing that.
Back off.
Regular inspections and things like that.
Yeah.
Did you find it, Ms. Alder?
Yes.
Aarons? Okay, why don't we go back to the question so we don't lose it? So you wanted to see the
On a
original,
comparison of, yes.
So this is the original matrix.
Can you, I can't
Need it
even
bigger?
see it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So the original matrix here, we had
Yes, it does.
we had family childcare homes as an accessory permitted use in R1A, R1, R2, and R3,
Okay.
as well as the TZ1, TZ2, and TZ3. And they were only permitted by right in the MX.
Wow.
So it was very minimal previously.
Okay, so now we're
So
adding,
we're extending it into,
In a lot of,
oh,
some of these churches would be conceivably in those
yeah.
R1, R2, R3.
but we're saying that the first two categories are specifically for homes, so churches wouldn't apply, they would be a childcare center.
Correct.
Yeah, this is the previous one.
I'm just saying.
And again, there are some childcare centers that may be before the ordinance came into effect. They could be longstanding childcare facilities that maybe outdate our current zoning. I just want to bring that up as well.
And the R4 through R8 is all multifamily?
Single and multifamily, yes.
Okay.
There are single through multifamily
Oh,
residential
mixed.
homes
Okay.
allowed. so
Okay, yeah,
yes.
of course. Okay, that makes sense. Okay,
So
all right.
I guess the question I have relates to group childcare homes.
right, the bigger one.
You know, the family 1 through 7, I think, is the family
Right.
you know, I had a neighbor that operated, I believe, a licensed center of that size, 3 or 4 kids, years and years ago, and it was never an issue. I noticed the group care home can allow for up to 14
14.
14.
in a single-family residential home?
Correct.
And what kind of space requirements are required?
35 square feet, not include, per child, not including bathrooms, pantries, kitchens, et cetera. So when you shake out and do the math, its maximum size is like 450 square feet,
So,
minimum for a group.
Minimum size.
For a group.
Correct. So at its max, at about 14, when I did the math, it was around 450 square feet.
so you're telling me that, wait a minute, you're telling me that you're going to put 14 kids in 450 square feet
Big room.
and have 14 parents pick up the kids every night and drop them off every morning next to and in the middle of the single-family residential R1, R1A, R2, R3? I mean, 45-foot lots.
There's also a 600 square foot minimum outdoor area. So that has to have a green space that's usable of 600 square feet. Those are the two spacing requirements when I did the math
How
that
many-
shook out.
Do you know if there are employees required for 14 children?
There are employees required. One of them is they're required to have at least one assistant, to my knowledge, on staff.
So I guess my point is, we don't currently have any.
Correct.
I don't know, does our ordinance even allow something of this size currently?
Yes. Currently,
That's right, it's an MX only.
it's an MX only, and we
Which
do
can
not
never
have any.
qualify because the space is not.
Correct.
Correct.
To my understanding.
I'm confused. Mr.
Is
Kozik.
it conceivable that somebody, somewhere I imagine somebody owns a home, they have 2 kids, they've got some friends that ask them to watch their kids, and there's 3, so you got 5. So, you know, a question under this group, or even any of these, if I had 3 kids, is it 3 plus 7 and 3 plus 14, or is it, are my kids included in the number? And then another question is, could somebody buy a house, and it's not their, so they may not even live there, and it becomes a family or group home, like,
Child care.
No. What we're proposing, we had that specific concern when we first started watching out, because that's something that we don't think be interested in entertaining, is having an accessory use would require that the owners be in residence at the home, and that be their primary, that we would have to be an inhabited residential home in order for that use to be permitted. And I don't believe, based on what I've been reading, that it would even be permitted by the state to do something like that.
So these numbers to me just, and I know it's a state thing or whatever, but just seem incredibly high. You know, even 7 under the one category and 14, and now you have additional staff, and where do they park? And, you know, is it open for business at 5:30 in the morning and the last parent shows up at 9 o'clock at night or something? It's, you know, on a 50-foot lot, you know, it's even the numbers seem 35 square feet per person, or 600 square feet, that's a 3-car garage, you know, so in terms of a outdoor space, it seems like, like packing it in there, which could bring lots of potential issues, so. Ms. Weiss?
I feel good about the family child care home piece of this, the 1 through 7 kids. The group child care home that is proposed in the matrix to go to R1A, R1, R2, and R3, I feel like child care centers, like we have at churches and things like that around the community already, fill that need. And it seems like it might be really difficult to sustain that sort of traffic and movement in a single-family home in an R1, R2 district, wherever, of up to 14 children. So I would say I'm really comfortable with family daycare 1 through 7. That makes perfect sense to me. I think the higher number of groups are covered by the child care centers, and I think it might be best to eliminate the 4 suggestions of group child care home. my opinion.
Other thoughts?
I guess
Are we allowed to do that?
yeah, I mean, what troubles me then is, if I'm understanding you, Janelle, there'd be no group childcare homes in the city. Is that right?
I think, yes,
Yeah, I think that's troublesome.
that's troublesome.
Problematic.
Yeah.
Well, did we not say it was an MX?
It is
authorized?
already permitted in
Permitted in
MX, under our current matrix. We were proposing removing it from MX, as it didn't seem to be a compatible use in that area. So we were concerned about that. According to the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, it does not appear that we are required, in the same way as townships and counties, to allow group childcare home in the same capacity, because we are a city. So they do allow more lenience in terms of allowing cities to make their own decisions and limit the location.
With all due respect, I would like to make sure that the city attorney opines on that officially before we make that leap. But I mean, I appreciate the.
There's a general rule
That's right.
that if if a municipality doesn't offer a zoning category within their boundaries, that an applicant may have an easier time either requiring a variance or obtaining some sort of permission. So I'm more inclined to think that we want to have the category somewhere. I mean, assuming if there's, it's a little different if you had like heavy industrial. But for something like this, I think both in terms of service to the community and in terms of regulating ourselves, I think we ought to have a group childcare home area available. The other thing I wonder about is so we have childcare centers in some churches, apparently.
Yeah.
But if any of those churches in the single family are in the R district? Because if so, this,
Look up. Matt.
Yeah, I would agree that yes, we do have, according to the state, licensed childcare facilities, which include preschools. They also include, at Pierce Elementary and several elementary schools, there are daycare facilities in those elementary schools. That's also a good chunk of them. So yes, we do see them in residential.
so this matrix allows up to 14.
One in Midvale, too.
I can't remember the way it works with zoning in schools. They may have some exemptions, I don't recall on that. But, so since we have childcare centers in some churches, I wonder if there's some way we can address those so that they aren't, non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming uses, which subjects them to a whole different category of problems, or, I'm trying to think, like, take the Lutheran church that just redid itself. If this matrix were in effect, and if they have a child care center, would that require them then, as prior existing non-conforming use, to go through a zoning variance to maintain that child care center? I'm not sure about that, but I just wonder.
Well, we're not changing anything about the child care center portion of the ordinance.
Well, no, but this matrix that I'm looking at doesn't permit child care centers in any residential districts, and we have some.
And that's pre-existing. That is how it has been as well, just so it's
So our
clear.
current ordinance does that.
Correct. Our current ordinance does not allow childcare centers in residential
And
zones,
they're continuing it here.
and it would be continuing.
So the question he asked is, if the Lutheran Church comes in for a variance,
Well, if they change their building,
change their building, and do they lose their pre-existing status?
yeah, that's the question.
And clearly, the Lutheran Church came before us
Yeah.
and got approved for a change, but we didn't look at that issue.
Right. And I'd hate to open the can of worms of trying to carve out some special thing just for them, only to then open the door to childcare centers opening up in other homes in the area through some loophole, too. I mean,
The original proposal from McKenna recommended permitting childcare centers in residential for the purpose of childcare centers in residential zones are often in schools or connected to schools or are treated like institutions or only able to purchase property or have property that would be similar to an institutional use. That language is in, but that is the original, and I understand that we ended up moving away from that because of the concern that what if somebody buys up 4 houses and then tears them down and puts in a daycare center?
could you, I just had a thought
Yes.
related to this. Could you go to the page, my computer is completely
No, you're
frozen.
fine.
If we could go to the page that had it had definitions, but it had, under family group or family and then group, it had A, B, or ABC. It was in the ordinance,
Yep.
I think. I apologize, my screen is just frozen, so I can't tell you the page.
Welcome to the world.
We have 2 different sections. This is under the
Look at my
section 5.02 of the ordinance specifically. And then there's another one for family.
Okay, so here we say that group childcare homes must be located within a single-family dwelling.
Correct.
Now, we don't say anything about that in family childcare home. I was curious why we didn't, and I think maybe we should for consistency. But perhaps if we're going to look at childcare centers definition in the near future, we could simply indicate that childcare centers may not operate within any single-family home and take away
Family home, yeah.
any fears we have of encroachment. And with that, when we do that, we could look at whether accessory uses in certain other zones made sense.
Yeah.
That makes,
So,
That makes sense to you?
sounds good. Yeah,
At least
I like that.
10,000 feet?
Maybe it's, and if it's permissible, and again, the city attorney ought to be consulted on this.
Yes.
To say, in this circumstance, accessory uses in, I'll call it otherwise institutional structures.
Right.
It's
Perfect.
not a precise way to say it, but.
No, but I know exactly what you mean. It's a good point.
I want to make something clear. I may have misspoken earlier that the state does not require that family childcare homes be in single-family residences as long as they meet the requirements. So, for example, they could be in a duplex, in a multifamily building, and as long as they meet the requirements and have the outdoors, then they would be permitted. And we did not go as far as to restrict something like a duplex from not being permitted to be a
So
family
maybe we
childcare
just
home.
make some comment that family childcare home must be located in a residential building. Or
Maybe
something along
appropriate.
those lines. I mean,
family
Just be
childcare
specific.
home.
Structure.
Okay.
residential
I
structure
think
or
that's fair.
something.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Okay.
I had one other question. So you talked about R1A, R1, and R2, and I think even R3 for group.
Yes, correct.
I'm curious, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that. But I think Mr. Scher's point is very well taken. What does the board feel and what does staff feel about TZ? They're already kind
Finding
of,
a place for it in TZ?
yeah, shifting it to TZ.
Why was the, you
Or why
made-
not just MX like
Yeah,
it
you would
originally
comment that the
currently
MX
is?
was not appropriate. What was, you got a park close by, you got a...
I think the concern with MX was the lack of, we were discussing single-family homes,
Okay.
was the lack of single-family homes in the MX.
Same concern with TZ, don't you?
Because if we were restricting group childcare to,
Yeah,
that was the concern.
Yeah, okay.
I'd have to look at the map.
Yeah, I'm not saying I want to do it,
Can we bring the
that's the
map
entire city right
of the TZ zones?
Yeah.
If we're going to consider that, I just don't have them memorized.
Summer, did you not just say that you believe we don't have to
Remember the seams.
provide for group childcare home? And is there a way to
According
confirm
to the zone, when I had the conversation with the city attorney, my understanding of what the city attorney said, along with what the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act said, the sentence that pertains to cities and villages, I'll pull this up briefly before I go back to the map. is a group child care home may be issued a special use permit, conditional use permit, or other similar permit. That is the only sentence that discusses what a city or a village is required to do. And so,
They're not required, they may.
or they may, exactly, may, it's just, the required is just may, they may consider, correct. And so, what we have, just for clarity though, what we discussed previously was aligning ourselves.
If
disagree
you
with that.
go back, I think that's a question for the city.
It absolutely is a question,
Yeah.
because I disagree with that interpretation
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
it may be issued a special land use permit. Well, what if they don't need a special land use permit under our ordinance?
Well, that's the
Correct.
point. That's saying that
It's
the city
may.
has the ability to put a special land use permit require on it.
Correct.
It doesn't say the city has the ability to just not
Deny.
allow it in their bounds.
Yeah. Right.
That's a city,
City attorney's got to answer that question.
Okay, we can get clarity on that for sure.
You know, I really think the more changes we make, I mean, I think we almost need constant opinion of city attorney, no matter where we go. I mean, really, when we finally consider this and schedule a public hearing, we really got to have our ducks in a row.
I agree completely.
And I just think we're going to have more changes now, and then we're going to have another question of the city attorney. I know we are, based on what additional language you come up with. And I think before we schedule, or let me put it another way, at least by the time of this public hearing, we need to have the city attorney present for this.
Well, I'll go a step further. I'm not comfortable with setting a public hearing tonight
No,
on this yet. I mean,
No.
this is important work, but we're not ready.
no.
So
I
I'm
agree.
with you. We need the city attorney
Well, but
lockstep
I
through the
think-
process.
Yeah, and then the question you have to answer, Mr. Chairman, is whether the city attorney needs to be present.
Let's get the language a little closer, and then we can
Decide.
make
Yes.
that
Okay.
recommendation
All right.
to,
Okay.
Just for the
City manager.
last point on the shall versus may. For counties and townships, the language is the group childcare home shall be issued a special land use permit. And for cities and villages, it's may. So there seems to be some ambiguity there, but I completely agree that we need to follow up to make sure that we're not excluding at its entirety.
I want to clear, my question for the city attorney has nothing to do with shall and may. The shall and may in this situation specifically references special land use permits, which has nothing to do with zoning.
Okay.
It's part of our, if we choose to put a SLUP on it because we want to make it more difficult, we could. That's what a lot of communities have done with certain uses. It doesn't say that we have any ability
Under the underlying.
to just say under underlying zoning, you can't put it anywhere. So that's the opinion we want to
makes
make sure the
sense.
city attorney gives
Yep.
us. And then you guys need to do some research on the group, the R zones that you're looking at. I think you're hearing from us that there are too many. And then perhaps look at the TZ zones to see if that's maybe a more appropriate place. Come back to us with some recommendations. I think the language we've heard tonight, the cleanup has been very good and I think pretty clear. I'm sensing from the board that we're feeling fairly good about the family.
Sure.
Yeah.
I am.
I haven't really heard peeps about that. It's just the group that I think is giving us concern in what you presented today.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Is that going to fully accurately depict what we're talking about?
Yes.
For me,
And I think it may be worthwhile looking at whether a special land use permit
For a group.
can be a solution to childcare center in the residential districts for, if we could attach, that's a way to attach the institutional structure kind of thing. So that may be,
Yeah, and I don't know if that's going to come as part of what you're going to present to us, if you're going to come present to us just this and then come back with the childcare center at another time. That'll be for you and staff and Dupuy and whatnot to figure out, but.
And the city
Fair.
attorney.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's open it up to comments from the public. Anyone from the public here to comment on this discussion of child care centers in the community? If you are at home, please use the raise your hand function. Nope. All right, so we'll bring it back to the board. All right.
I mean,
Final thought?
yeah, my sense is I don't want to delay this too long either. I mean, I think we got to keep this moving.
Yeah, I'd like to.
So if you can get it back by the June meeting, I think that would be, the first June meeting, that would be good.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, we got to get this done, in my view, before we start getting into the overall zoning,
Yeah.
and that's
Oh,
what,
agreed.
July?
All right, let's move forward. We have a pre-application discussion for 283 Hamilton Row, Marrow.
So, so this is just, it's kind of just a heads up, on another outdoor dining deck. Some preliminary plans presented in your packet, just showing that Marrow, which is a new sort of, deli type, butcher type place, as I understand it, is requesting, they're putting together a proposal for an outdoor dining platform in the front of Marrow. And they also are getting permission from the neighboring salon so that they would be in front of Marrow and the neighboring storefront. And so it would be 2 on-street public parking spaces.
Our cars, yeah.
And so the plans show 5 tables with 20 chairs within the platform, and that it will extend into the furnishing zone only to provide a ramp into the, it's not, the dining is not extending into the furnishing zone. It's a ramp to get from the furnishing zone into the deck. And then they're not proposing changes to site or building at this time. And so Nick just noted for you that as of today, there are 3 other outdoor dining platforms approved and in use within the Hamilton Row right-of-way. You have Greek Islands to the west, Birmingham Sushi to the east, and Commonwealth, which is south, I believe, across the street. And so at this time, the applicant is looking for feedback to just consider while they're developing their application for final site plan and design review.
So I see the applicant is not here. Do you know if they happen to be online?
They're on Zoom.
Excellent.
Excellent. Cool.
Would the applicant, could we bring the applicant up to just provide any other quick input on what they're hoping to do?
She is unmuted. I will see if she speaks, if you guys can hear her.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, it's Pauline.
Hi, Pauline. Can you tell us who you are and where you're from and talk a little bit about what you're trying to do here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Pauline. I'm the VP of Operations for Marrow. We started in Detroit and officially opened up our new, more fast casual butcher shop, sandwich shop on Hamilton in December. So this is going to be our official first spring and summer. And would very much like to be a part of the Birmingham walkable community of having an outdoor space. Definitely know the importance of that for just a small business, and a small business that focuses on people coming to dine, meet up, and wanted to get some initial thoughts. Just being a small business, it is a lot of resources and monetary resources to move forward with the proposal and wanting to put this in front of you all. And so working with Nick, just thought it would be a good idea to get some insight from you all as we work towards the next meeting of hopefully officially bringing it forward. We did make some changes that it looks like you guys are looking at. It would only be 1 parking spot. The very first iteration, we were looking at 2, but this is not. This updated proposal, it would be a parking spot and then the X, the parking spot X, which we talked to Nick about before moving into this. So the idea is that we kind of scaled it down so it was mainly in front of just our building. I know it does go a little bit in front of our neighbor just due to the way the parking spot is laid out, which of course we have no problem if we need to talking to them and the landlord, but the idea was to scale it back so it was very much in front of our space.
How many chairs would you have?
20.
So, looking at kind of the space layout right now, it would be a max of 20 chairs.
It looks like more than one parking space.
It does.
Is that 2 X's and 1 parking spot?
I don't know.
So the way we redesigned it, it was only supposed to be one parking space and an X. It does look like the way our architect designed it, this may be a second X, so I guess that is good feedback to know kind of where you all would stand looking at how this is and anything that we would, you would propose us adjusting moving forward.
I think that my thought is that the plan should include the spaces and any X's so we can see them. I can't see them based on the current.
I think it's those squares, but
I kind of, I checked this out too, and the plan is a little bit off, I think, needs maybe to be, because it is, we think that it's grabbing another X, but there's not actually another X until 2 spaces later. So what this plan is showing is that you've taken 2 spaces and 2 X's, and I don't believe that's what you're
Some odd feet,
proposing
yeah.
tonight. So,
No.
so the plan is not reflecting the actual site, unfortunately.
So you're going to wind up with 2, 3, you might have 16 or 12, quite frankly.
Yeah, which we're actually very okay with. At the end of the day, I think it's, we need to have visibility, and this would allow small business visibility. So even pulling back and being able to move forward with 12 seats would make,
That's why I
a
asked the
big
question.
difference for us.
Okay,
What hours do you operate?
yeah, what hours?
What are the hours? The hours at the moment are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. We've discussed for summer hours, moving that to close at 7 p.m. just because we do get people coming in to grab dinner or grab dinner to take home before or after leaving work. So at the latest, it would be moving it to 7 p.m., but it is not a late night spot.
Okay.
Mr. Kozik.
So the plan diagram here, if you just scroll up just a little bit, shows that 2/3 of this aligns with your storefront, and then 1/3 of it goes to the east, right? If you look at that aerial photograph that you had up there before, it's the opposite of that, because it was outlined in,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
So just to be,
I think we need clarity as to what space you're taking.
Yeah,
so zoom in there, so their space is highlighted, it's got that red dot there, correct?
so,
And so this is different than what's shown in
Yes.
this
Yeah.
drawing.
Yeah, so you are accurate, you're correct, so I'm noticing that. What you're zoomed in on right now was our initial proposal. What then on the second page, we had adjusted and resent to Nick, but I obviously see that needs to be adjusted too, is to not move forward with asking for 2 spaces and to only be asking for 1 space in one of the X's that was next to that.
Okay, but the so-called X is needed for a car to get in, I mean, there's a purpose for that, right? To
Maneuver.
be able to maneuver into a space, so.
I think they're at the trees as well, so your car door doesn't
Right.
open into the
So-
tree, right?
The point is, we need to identify the exact spot, and she needs to talk to the engineering department to ensure that the space they take is available, right? Right?
Yeah.
Mr. Kozik?
Yeah, and that it doesn't adversely impact.
Right, okay.
The ability to get into another parking space or.
but the concept is, you're looking for is, would we entertain the possibility of outdoor dining in general at this location?
Yes.
And my answer would be yes. But we got a lot of work to do to get to the final result.
Ms. Boyce?
Summer, you might have told us this, but does SciTi have a platform?
They do not, to
They
my
do not.
knowledge. Nope.
Nothing approved, okay. Because they're the next building directly to the east of this,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Mr. Jeffries?
same question I have on this as the other one. It looks like you got 11 and a half feet of sidewalk, and, based on some of the conversation, it sounds like you'd be able to get the tables
Without a platform.
without a platform and keep the parking.
Yeah, what we're saying is maybe when you relook at this, you don't need a platform. If all you're talking about needing is 12 spaces.
When you say platform, like referring to like decking?
In the street, yeah. Maybe you don't need to go to the street. I don't think we know the answer to that.
Was if you would entertain approving not needing a platform.
So let's be clear. When we say not a platform, we mean not in the street either.
Right.
We mean, if you're going to propose to put dining in the parking space, it must be in a platform and it must conform to all of the ordinance. And we've got to clear up what space you're taking and all of that stuff. The question that was posed is, since there is a wide sidewalk on this street, have you not considered putting those 3 or 4 tables you're going to wind up with immediately in that band next to the tree and just do it on the sidewalk and not have to build a deck that comes in and out every summer? Have you looked at that?
Yeah, we would, and honestly, I think that would be very smart, again, for being small, newer business, and us doing that. I think one thing that I would, obviously want to make sure and ask you all, but it sounds like what you're all saying is like based on kind of what we're looking at of maybe only 12 seats, some smaller tables, because I know there needs to be a designated distance between like our actual building and then where the tables start.
Correct.
So I wanted to clarify and make sure that if I come back with, and if that's a proposal, then that this board needs to approve if it's not going into the street too.
Yes.
We would still need to approve it. So what I would suggest, if that's something that you and your team are looking at, that you would get with Mr. Dupuy and work out those logistics of the 2 options before you spend a lot of money on detailed plans. We're more than happy to have you shoot a quick concept of where those tables might be on the sidewalk to Mr. Dupuy, and we would even look at it quickly one night at one of our next meetings, if that's something you'd like to do, without this formality of you having to come and explain yourself if you wanted more assurances.
We got a meeting in 2 weeks.
But I think in general, what you're hearing is that we want to support your outdoor dining needs, but we also want to do it in an effective way. The one concern that has not been expressed, and I don't know if it's a big concern, I know that Greek Isles has a deck, I'm told, and I just don't remember where that is. I don't think it's out yet. I'm not sure. I haven't been back there.
Currently being built.
Is it?
I can pull it up.
So how close is that? And I just don't want to get into a case where we're jamming decks against decks against decks. I don't think it's an issue, but it would be good on your aerial to show, even just in a grayed out box, what space or spaces is being used by Greek Isles, just so we understand that.
One question for you, Summer, I guess. Does a door really swing out over the sidewalk? And does that affect your 5 feet?
I don't think that's legal.
Probably doesn't.
I don't think so.
Does your door swing out over the sidewalk, or does it swing into the business?
That sounds stupid, then I'm trying to remember where it swings.
It's allowed.
When it was Access Music, it swung over the sidewalk. Look, it says pull right on here on the
I
outside.
mean, I believe her business, we do pull the front door forward.
Well, that's got to be taken into account as you talk with Mr. Dupuy about using the sidewalk.
So that means, obviously, what you're saying is like, we would have to start the clearance from where the door swings open to the tables.
I think you'd have to talk to Mr. Dupuy and have him discuss that with the building department to get you an answer. That's not something that we would be able to give you an answer on, but Mr. Dupuy and the building department could interpret that and tell you what that means.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds, well, one, thank you for the support. High level, sounds like if we do want to move forward with the actual decking aspect of on the street, the main thing is, of course, like being more clear on the actual spot we're taking. But I will follow up with Nick on putting, smaller seating on the actual sidewalk, and making a decision if that's what we want to do, in addition to showing an aerial of any other spaces around us that have
Perfect,
deck right now.
Excellent.
perfect.
Great.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Good
great.
luck.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Again, I'm all jammed up here, but I don't think there were any updates or any.
No.
We've got the joint meeting on the 16th.
Yeah.
I think we just talked about one potential topic related to the decks. I don't know, is there anything else, Leah, you were looking for tonight on that?
No?
Okay.
16th of June.
And we've got the agendas for the next couple up here. I don't know if there's any comments from the board?
So what, we just talked about the potential for a hybrid meeting on the 28th of May?
No.
No, okay.
June.
June, the first
June.
meeting in June.
Good, okay.
This
because
This
the
is
28th looks-
479 South Old Woodward's coming back
Yeah,
again?
Yep.
So, they just love you guys.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
phrase that, maybe you could put this,
Yeah, all right. We'll leave
the
that alone.
endless conversation.
All right, seeing no other business. Good work, team. Meeting adjourned.